We are back with retired U.S. Navy commander and author Frank Weisser. Among other things, he is a two-time Blue Angels pilot. That is very rare. His new book, Lead Solo, can be the wind beneath our wings. All right, I want to touch on your decision to retire. As we know, for so many people in the military, when they go into the civilian world, that can be a tough transition. In fact, the Honor Foundation, they help elite forces in particular because they say even someone who seems to have all this great, wonderful experience, they can find it tough when they leave the military to go into civilian life.
I've found that to be as true as well. And I think it's terrific that there are organizations out there that help with the transition.
All right. So you found this book, writing this book, you said very therapeutic. Is that part of the reason why?
You know, I had given a speech at the Naval Academy, the Brigade of Midshipmen, and the Naval Institute Press is located on the yard there on the campus. And they said, would you mind taking that speech and putting it into a short book, 50 or 60,000 words? And I had a great deal of reluctance. I get frustrated with military folks who leverage their career for financial gain. So after almost a year of back and forth, I said, I'm happy to do it. However, it needs to have no financial incentive. So all of the proceeds go to charity, and the book can't be about me. It has to be about the stories of the people I served with. Because for sure, as I look back on my career, the biggest blessing of all was having served with incredible men and women across 25 years. Yeah. And so it was a really wonderful experience to be able to showcase my closest friends, my mentors, my sailors and Marines, and share their stories rather than my own.
And share those reflections with us, because there's lessons in every single one of those stories that you share. All right, there was an ironic moment when you were sitting on a plane once, and not just like not a fighter jet, but a commercial airline. You were sitting next to a woman, and she was watching a movie, and it caught your attention.
It did. Yeah, I was reading a book, and there was it was kind of right after COVID, so there was a middle seat empty between us, which was nice to have at the time. And I looked over, and she was watching Top Gun Maverick, and it was a scene I had flown in. And I'm a child, so I can't help it. I'm staring at it, and she sees me staring, and she pulls her earphone out, and she goes, "It's a really good movie. You should watch it."
well, you know,
I said, "I don't like airplanes."
That's funny. But you know, it's funny because when you're in the movie, it's a whole different perspective than when you see it all edited and up there on the screen.
That's right. You know, and I talk about this a little in my book. I have a section on perspective, and one of the things I mentioned is when I see that movie, it's totally unique to me because you're looking at it backwards. I'm looking at Tom's face through a camera facing aft, and I only remember those scenes facing forward. And so I take a lot of personal pride in the fact that I see that movie totally different.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to that lesson, how we apply that to our lives, the gift of perspective.
Yeah, my wife and I call it that. We approach problems differently, having been apart for so many years while I was deployed, and her having children with me not there. And then I actually flipped the script on it a tiny bit. And the reason is, as Blue Angels, we fly our show. And I know my perspective as the pilot, but the way we debrief ourselves, the way we improve, is using cameras stationed throughout the crowd. And so we have to see what the crowd sees, what our spectators see, for us to debrief. And if the crowd doesn't see the way we wanted to do it correctly, then it doesn't matter what we saw. We have to adjust. And so I found in the last 4 years being retired, if I'm as a business person and as a real estate developer or a general contractor, if I can see the perspective of the people I'm working with, my subs, my clients, whoever it might be, it allows me to be more effective in what I'm doing because I recognize their perspective is more important than my own.
Yeah, and you understand the impact of what you're doing, right? All right, the power of preparation.
Blue Angels are excellent. Naval aviation is terrific at this anyway. We always prepare before a flight. We talk through what could go wrong, what we're going to do. We brief it, we execute it, we come back and we debrief it. The Blue Angels almost take it to the next level. We will sit around a table. We fly just about the same exact air show every single day. Yet we sit there for hours before the brief and we prepare for it. We go through the exact maneuvers. We even go so far as we close our eyes and we position ourselves as if we're in the airplane and fly it together as a team. And so that preparation allows us to really be focused in the moment, and then in turn allows us to grow as a team. And it fights complacency too, which is a big aspect of doing the same thing every day.
Yeah. This next lesson is one that's so uncomfortable for so many people, and partially because it's rooted in fear, and that is to push yourself to the point of failure.
Yeah, and I sort of mentioned it a few minutes ago, but I failed into aviation. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And I was a terrible pilot for almost my entire flight school process. And it took me a while to learn. And so what the blessing in that in disguise for me was the fact that by being able and willing to fail, I allowed myself successes I wouldn't have had down the road. Yeah. And I think that's been true of all the mentors I've had. If you look across a group of successful people, they'll all tell you they're failures. My chapter in the book about it opens with, we're all failures, at least the best of us are. And what's really dawned on me, and what I appreciate during my time as a leader in the military, is it's not just about being willing to fail myself. It's about encouraging the people underneath me to fail, allowing them to push so hard that they grow as individuals, we grow as a team, and then rewarding them for the failure, not punishing them for it.
Yeah, and one of your other lessons is to be your harshest critic. All right, if you're your harshest critic, no one else can say anything to hurt you. But anyway, let me end with this. What would you say to a young person right now who has the opportunity to join the United States military?
I'd say congratulations and go get them. I am so happy and so proud of the time I served. The people I met there, the people I served with, are my barometer for everyone I meet in my life from this day forward. And I didn't appreciate it at the time, what exceptional people I worked with. And so I would be so excited to be in that person's shoes and have such an incredible opportunity ahead of me.
Yeah, because the world's a little crazy right now. It's easy to join when everything's calm. When things are flaring up as they are around the world right now, a lot of times people will take pause.
Agreed.
Yeah. What would you say to a parent whose child comes to them, which is part of an ad campaign right now, but parent comes and says, I want to serve, and a parent who's concerned about that?
That's a trickier deal. And I have a senior in high school and a sophomore in high school. And I think about that a great deal, actually. And I think you have to, at some point, if you really love your child enough, you have to let them out of the nest, so to speak, and give them the wings to fly and allow them and encourage them in what they're doing. But that is a heavy burden. And I won't get political with you, but I do think that anyone who's making a decision to send our men and women to war should either be in uniform or be sending a child to that same war. I think there has to be some skin in the game.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Commander Weisser, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for writing this book.
Thank you. I love being on here. I appreciate you guys.
All right. You can purchase your copy of Lead Solo, Learning Life's Vectors from an FA-18 Blue Angel Aviator, wherever books are sold.